The air was thick with tension as I tried to make sense of everything. She was upset, and I didn't understand why it bothered her so much. But at that moment, the weight of her emotions didn't faze me. Divorce was looming. We'd been together since we were 18, and now, after all these years, our marriage was unraveling. The truth was, our sex life had never been great. In fact, after that first year, it barely existed. Maybe once or twice a year, at most. But it had been 3 years now, 3 long years, and still, nothing had changed. Despite all of that, I loved her. I loved her children, too. So, I didn't want to make a big deal out of it. I wasn't alone in this struggle, plenty of friends were in the same boat. But here's where things got complicated. I had always been a bit overweight, but I stayed active, playing sports regularly. But then, about 10 years ago, I got really sick. Medications and comfort eating led to my weight ballooning up to nearly 300 pounds. It was a struggle. But 2 years ago, something shifted. I decided to take control of my health. Now, at 6 feet 2 inches, I weighed 200 pounds, the lightest I'd been as an adult. I found joy in lifting weights and, for the first time in my life, I had a bit of muscle. A set of abs. My wife, who had always been more attractive than I was, seemed to notice the changes, too much, maybe. Women were noticing me. They were commenting on my social media, sending me messages on my baking pages, and it wasn't going unnoticed. For the first time, I felt desirable. But instead of excitement, there was insecurity on her end. It was obvious. The jealousy was thick. She could no longer deny it, other women were looking at me. And that stung. The night in question came like a storm. She had gone out with friends, some single, some in relationships, and she looked stunning. I told her so, even updating my phone's home screen with her picture. One of the women she was with messaged me a few months ago. It was clear she knew my wife didn't get much attention at home. She asked if I was interested in hooking up. It was a bold message, and without hesitation, I snapped a screenshot and sent it straight to my wife. Hours passed, and at 4 a.m., she came home, waking me from my sleep. I could tell something was wrong. Her eyes, wide and troubled, gave it away before she even said a word. I reached out to hold her hand, but she pulled away. "Do you want a drink?" I asked, trying to break the silence. "No," she replied, her voice heavy. And then, without warning, it came tumbling out. "I met a guy tonight," she said, her words shaky. "He kissed me." She went on, explaining that at first, she hadn't kissed back. But eventually, she did. Then, for the next half hour, they danced and kissed. Over and over again. "I'm so sorry," she kept repeating, her voice breaking. "Please don't leave me." I wasn't angry at her, not in that moment. My reaction, though, might have seemed surprising. So what? It was just kissing and dancing, right? I didn't say that, though. I held her, wrapped my arms around her, and tried to offer some comfort. I didn't want to escalate things. An hour later, after I had collected my thoughts, I spoke again. "I know you feel guilty, but don't. I'm not going to leave you. We've got a family, and I'm not going anywhere. This isn't something that's going to grow into resentment. I still love you the same as I did yesterday." Just as I was finishing, my phone lit up. It was that same friend, sending a picture and video of what my wife had been doing that night. It didn't make things any easier. My wife was devastated again. But my feelings remained unchanged. In the month that followed, my wife's guilt turned into accusations. She said I didn't love her because I didn't care. She accused me of kissing other people, suggesting that's why I wasn't upset, because I was covering up my own transgressions. Even more absurd, she repeatedly asked if I was gay. But it didn't make sense. She kept questioning why I hadn't initiated anything with her. Despite the fact that in the past, she had always told me to respect her boundaries, to not touch her, to not try to get intimate. And I had. I respected her wishes. But now, it felt like I was being punished for not making a move when she had specifically told me not to. It was a strange dynamic. She was projecting, and it was starting to eat at me. It was putting a strain on us, and I couldn't ignore it any longer. How could I make her understand that she needed to stop carrying around all this guilt? I had moved on. To me, it wasn't a big deal. Honestly, I was more annoyed when she accidentally broke my baking bowl and tried to blame it on the cat. That was what bothered me the most. As time went on, I began to see more messages flooding in. People wanted to know how I was coping. I appreciated their support, but they all had questions. Over the years, we had been to several couples counselors and sex therapists. But my wife always felt victimized by them, and we eventually stopped going. Most of them had said she might be asexual, and 2 even mentioned signs of her being a closet lesbian. I'd brought this up to her, but she adamantly denied it. For all the people telling me I didn't love her, I wanted to say this: I show love in my own way. Every Friday, I bring her flowers. I bake her favorite cookies and cupcakes every weekend. I send her voice notes of songs that remind me of her. I tell her I love her every day. I run her a bath every night. It's not about showing off. It's just how I was raised to show love. And yet, despite all of that, people still question my feelings for her. They said that if I wasn't jealous, then I couldn't possibly love her. They thought I should be devastated if she were having an emotional affair. And yes, I would be. But a dance and a kiss? That wasn't a deal breaker. It wasn't even close to divorce. It was 7 a.m. the next day, and as I sat there, reflecting on everything, I knew I had to find a way through this. The tension in the room was palpable as she stood there, her arms crossed tightly, her face an unreadable mask. I had given her a week to decide, couples counseling, or I would walk. I needed her to make a choice, to commit, to face the issues between us with the same level of urgency I felt. But her response wasn't what I expected. She refused. She told me she felt bullied by the therapists, that they sided against her. She accused me of breaking my word, of not forgiving her. But I wasn't angry about the kiss, it was the aftermath. It was her reaction that cut deeper than anything else. Her silent distance. Her determination to push me away, as if she were trying to make me leave her. The silence between us was suffocating. I tried to talk it through, tried to make her see reason, but she stormed off. She didn't want to listen. She was already dressed, ready to leave, insisting she was going out until I went to work. And just like that, she was gone. I was left in the quiet of the house, the weight of her absence pressing down on me. My heart twisted as I reflected on the coldness that had come to define our relationship. Some of the comments people shared after my post were hauntingly accurate. Was she trying to sabotage us? Was she trying to make me jealous by pushing me away? Did she expect me to fight for her? Or was this all some twisted game to see how far she could go before I snapped? How could I play along with that? But if that's what it took to get her attention, to get any kind of response, was it worth it? If she wanted to escalate it from a kiss to something worse just to provoke me, I wouldn't be a part of that. Then, a few days later, everything changed. My wife, having had no response, seemed to throw up her hands and accept that the end was inevitable. Divorce was now on the table. She didn't want to fight for us. And I couldn't keep fighting alone. I had suggested therapy, I had asked her to reconsider, but she refused. Every time we had a conversation, it was like a wall went up between us. She told me it was my decision to end the marriage, and that if it fell apart, it was my fault. I was the one who had to tell the kids. She would have no part in it. It was a cruel, cold sentence. And when it was done, she left. She went to her sister's house, and for 3 days, not a word from her. No texts, no calls. Just silence. Even when I tried to reach out about the kids, to check on how they were doing, she ignored me. I was left in this empty space, grasping for any sign of connection, any sign that she still cared, but it never came. It was then that I found out more about the friend, the one who had tried to seduce me, who had messaged me, and then sent the video. She didn't want to tell me because she felt guilty, not because of what happened, but because she was being forced to reveal it. And as I dug deeper, the truth came out. There were texts, messages, relationships that shouldn't have existed. My wife had been playing a game, but it wasn't just with me. It was with her friends, with everyone around her. I was nothing more than a pawn, a tool in their petty, toxic drama. They all hated each other, constantly messing with their partners, sabotaging their own relationships for sport. And then, it hit me. I felt it, the weight lifting. The tension was gone. I felt lighter. For the first time in years, I could breathe freely. The storm inside me had passed, and I felt a peace I hadn't known in so long. It was a guilty peace, yes, because it felt wrong to feel relieved by her absence. But the truth was undeniable. With her gone, I no longer lived in fear. I wasn't walking on eggshells, wondering when I would be insulted or belittled for the smallest thing. I wasn't being controlled, stifled by the constant pressure of trying to make her happy when nothing I did seemed to be enough. That day, with my kids, felt like a fresh start. We baked together, we ate Easter eggs, and we watched cartoons. I smiled, genuinely smiled, without the weight of her coldness hanging over me. There was no tension in the air, no fear of conflict. I was just a dad, spending time with his kids, and for once, I wasn't dreading the next conversation that would tear us apart. It wasn't easy, but I knew it was the right decision. This divorce was not just the end of a relationship. It was the end of a chapter where I had been afraid to be myself. Now, for the first time, I was free. And as I reflected on everything, I couldn't help but feel a strange sense of gratitude for the clarity this painful process had given me. I was going to be okay. I was going to move on. And no, I wouldn't ever let myself be in a relationship like that again, one where love was so cold, so conditional. I wouldn't settle for a love that made me feel small, invisible, and unworthy. The future was uncertain, but it was mine. And for the first time in a long while, I had the courage to face it. I now know, without a shadow of a doubt, that I'd rather live under a bridge, completely alone, than stay trapped in a household that feels like a prison. You didn't fail her, a voice echoes. You failed yourself. You let her toxic, abusive manipulation seep into your very soul. But it's understandable. Abuse doesn't announce itself, it creeps up slowly, wrapping itself around your heart until it becomes impossible to see anything but the lies. It sounds like she had you convinced that you could do nothing right, doesn't it? And yet, you deserve better. You deserve respect, kindness, and honesty, things that cost absolutely nothing. This should be the baseline of human interaction, at least when you're dealing with decent people. And that's exactly how it was, I reply, my voice hollow. I was terrified of even voicing an opinion, always second-guessing myself. Even now, the fear lingers. Just yesterday, my kids asked what film I wanted to watch, and I froze. For a moment, I was paralyzed, terrified that whatever choice I made would be ridiculed, dismissed. A constant, quiet tension gnaws at me. You didn't break your word, a community member chimes in, her tone firm. It's her actions after the fact, the silence, the refusal to act, that have led you here. And I nod, still unmoved by the kiss. Yep, it's true. I'm still not bothered by it. One user comments on the situation, sharp and clear, she doesn't want responsibility. She's trying to manipulate you into being the villain. You, on the other hand, want to improve yourself, to change the situation. She wants the same old thing. She's blaming the professionals for forcing her to face the reality of how she's treated you. Covert narcissism, they suggest. Look it up. It may hurt now, but your sanity will return soon enough. It stings. She's been playing this game for so long, making me feel like the bad guy in every single scenario. I'm not even on social media, but I keep hearing whispers, posts about giving everything for someone only for them to turn their back when things get hard. It's maddening. Dude, look up covert narcissism, another commenter warns. She's the source of all your problems, and you were never enough for her. No matter what you did, it was never right. I've been reflecting, I reply quietly, the weight of the realization heavy. It's true. Everything that's gone wrong in her life, it always comes back to me. From the big things like not earning enough money to support the lifestyle she wants, to the tiny, almost insignificant details, like her knocking over a glass because I dared speak to her while she was watching something. It's maddening how small I've become in her eyes. A voice cuts in, clear and unwavering, don't ignore her behavior. It never ends well. Protect your name, because people will listen to gossip more than they'd like to admit. Keep all those screenshots, trust me, they'll help when it's time to divorce. If she crosses a line, don't hesitate to tell her in writing that you won't allow your personal information to be spread. That way, she can't play innocent. And then it happens. She posts something about cheating, pictures and all. It's about how cheating destroys relationships, but her status reads, so true, but I'm willing to forgive and forget. A friend of mine saw it and called her out, asking, want to delete this, or should I post the video? I can't even begin to express how much I despise these mind games. The manipulation. The cruelty. It makes me cringe just thinking about it. Another voice suggests, if your kids are old enough, tell them the truth. But I won't. They're too young. I tell them simply, Mommy and Daddy have decided it's best we don't live together anymore. Grown-ups sometimes make this decision, but it's not your fault. You're loved, and we both care about you. But the truth is, I've got the video. Proof of everything. Screenshots of her sexting her friend's boyfriend. Photos of her flaunting herself in a WhatsApp group chat, asking strangers for comments. It's all there, plain as day. And her tattoo under her boob, only she has it. There's no denying it. Others remind me to keep everything, every piece of evidence, every moment. Some warn that UK courts might not care about the cheating, but it's not about that. It's for my own peace of mind, to protect myself in case she tries to spin this into a narrative where I'm the villain and she's blameless. I'm documenting everything, how she's ignored me and my eldest son since she left. She left on her own, and hasn't come back. One comment urges, don't take her back. And I make a promise. I'll never take her back. I may have been spineless before, but once I make a decision, I stick with it. A final voice in the comment section advises, update us when she realizes the grass isn't greener. My response? She's been out nearly every night since she left for her sister's. I genuinely hope she finds that nice green grass and is happy. But the thing is, I'm at peace now. The weight is gone. The constant tension that followed me like a shadow is lifted. It's not just about surviving anymore, it's about thriving. I'm finally free. My kids and I, we're finding our rhythm. No more eggshells. No more fear of saying the wrong thing. We're eating Easter eggs, laughing, watching cartoons, enjoying life. I'm focusing on myself. I'm healthier, stronger, and so much more aware of what I deserve. Peace is priceless. So, to everyone following along, thank you. For your support, your words of encouragement. What do you make of this situation? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next update. See you next time.